I hope that I'll pronounce it correctly. In Czech language, it would be SIKANAI, and Vasi is
Yeah.
presenting. Am I correct?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so the floor is yours. Thank
Right.
you.
So I realize I think we're a bit over time, so I'll just try to be as quick as possible. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, okay. So my product is called Hot Plus. So we used to be called SIKANAI. Now we're just so the name of the company was SIKANAI. Now and the name of the product was Hot Plus. So now we're sort of transitioning towards just calling it Hot Plus. So I would just like to share. So I'll actually focus less on the product and more on my point of view and sort of the stuff which I've learned along the way. So I've been sort of fascinated with this issue of contract cheating, as other people have mentioned. So at that time, I think I started to work on this issue around 2015. Uh, I made the first presentation, I think it was in 2015, coincidentally in the Plagiarism Across Europe conference. So now I'm basically back after 10 years to sort of share what I've learned and to show what I've built as well. So the why I do this is because I discovered the SML uh, business or the sector when I was a teenager. So when I was quite young, I was hired to be a writer at one company. At that time, I didn't really know what was happening, but like soon enough, after a few months, I sort of got that what the whole business was just to write students' work. And that sort of, to be honest, blew my mind. Uh, and I think that's why it's very difficult for people who sell these detection tools to get buy-in from universities, because it is in fact a very mind-blowing thing unless you've seen it happen. So the way I sort of see it is that the SML sector sort of is bound. So the key to every industry, at least the marketing aspect, is bound in human insecurity. So just like how the beauty or the cosmetic sector markets itself to people's insecurity in their own perceived attractiveness, this sector markets itself to the students' perceived insecurity in their own aptitude. So they don't just do that; they do other things as well. But I find this whole situation very problematic, given that the education industry exists to help students increase their actual aptitude. I feel that there are some areas in which higher ed can reduce some bottlenecks, which might in fact harm the SML sector, and by extension, the generative AI based tools as well. So my whole core goal is that in within the SML sector, no value is exchanged, and all that exchange, all that changes hand is money. So my long-term goal is to sort of turn this situation into a more productive one. So the areas or the bottlenecks I was talking about is that there's a lack of personalization in higher ed. I think this is like one of the earlier presenters like spoke about this as well. I think it was Roger. But I think this lack of personalization sort of in the student's mind, I think they feel justified in the sense that most of the lecturers don't even know the names of the students, and it's very difficult for them to even know the whole detail of their writing as well. So if we can make the learning experience more personalized, we can sort of bridge the communication gap between the instructor and the students. I feel that the students would be more motivated to do their own work. A second point is that I feel some students, not all of them, some students really do have a writing issue. Uh, it's sort of like uh, the jump from high school writing to college level is too high for some students. So if we can sort of ease that jump, or sort of help them towards that jump, I think we would also demotivate students from using SMLs or using LLMs quite a lot. And then thirdly, I also feel that academic integrity tools are sort of always added as an extra thought. They're not really covered during a course. Typically, they're just like at the end of the lecture, the students will get a few slides or one link in which they can go and view the policy and how to control it. So if we can do anything which is sort of added into the learning and teaching experience, I think that would help as well. And to be honest, all of these experiences, they come from my perspective as a student as well, because I just graduated the last year. I did a postgraduate. And I did feel that if we can sort of improve these tools, I feel that some of the peers which I saw who were genuinely having all of these issues, they would really their perception of what they're getting out of their degree would greatly improve. A second reason is that a lot of students falsely equate similarity with good writing. So, just like how your body temperature is not really indicative of your overall health, there's more nuance to writing and learning. So I also wanted to build something that contributes or captures that nuance. Uh, so to start off so just to sort of show my point of view on this is that I feel that all of these three things, generative AI, usage, plagiarism, and contract cheating, are sort of lumped into this one category, which is true. But it's also, again, there's a lot of nuance here. So I think there's a lot of moral colors we sort of spray onto these terms, which is useful, but also for the students, it becomes difficult for them to communicate their struggles as well. Because some students, again, generally are in between a rock and a hard place. They want help, but they don't know how to get that help. So a really fascinating thing, which I've seen, it's not really fascinating, but it's a challenge. Is that most of the universities now they are struggling uh, with helping the students disclose when they've used LLMs. So I think if we can sort of change our mindset into how we sort of communicate this to the student, that might help them bring them on board as well. So why I really wanted to make a different rule is that I feel that plagiarism and contract cheating and LLMs are different problems. So I really call what I actually suggest is that instead of using contract cheating, is to use a more general term, which is proxy authorship, which sort of takes out the moral colors from the conversation, in the hopes that it might help the students talk more easily about what the issues which they're facing. Anyway, so I see plagiarism as an attribution problem, and I see proxy authorship as a collaboration problem. So plagiarism is using material and not attributing it to the correct author, whereas proxy authorship is using an entirely different author who does not want to be cited. This is a very key thing, because generally, when you commit plagiarism, when you use some other author's work, they want to be cited, right? And how I'm seeing this right now is most higher ed institutes, they want the students to cite an LLM, which doesn't make sense because the LLM does not want to be cited at all. So it's in effect more like a ghostwriter, right? Yeah. So that's the whole thing here. Anyway, so how we solve plagiarism is by finding unattributed text and then sort of train the student on how to attribute text using citations. For contract cheating or proxy authorship, I would feel that if we make unauthorized collaboration more difficult or easy to disclose, that would help more students get on board with this. So how I sort of think about this is that plagiarism is just one big, large issue. And then you have consensual plagiarism, which is sort of the proxy authorship problem, which includes contract cheating or generative AI. And then there's non-consensual, which is sort of the more atypical plagiarism, which we've seen. So the background of this is that I actually started by focusing on writing and analytics. So I made this desktop app called Slate. It connected with Word. And then what used to happen was that the student was given access to a plagiarism checker, and the students would check it before submitting to the instructor. And the instructor would get all the writing data from the docx document. So what I felt after sort of doing a few pilots on that is that technical soundness. So it was technically very sound, like the documents were very secure. It was pretty difficult to cheat the whole system, but the training cost and getting students on board was quite a challenge in the sense, like even if it took 5 minutes for them to download something new, students would not want to do it. If you change their normal default way of doing things, they would not want to do it at scale. You can do it for one class, two classes, but for a whole institutes, those 5 minutes of training costs, they add up. And then secondly, I feel I've seen that whenever we're using any detection technique or tool or whatever, we're effectively sort of imposing a cost to all of the students, whether they may have cheated or not. And then what I would also want is that the students who are not cheating, they should get a benefit from this, or not from this, or from any tool as well. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about the instructors; it's also about the students as well. And we should also sort of help them get more value out of what we're trying to do. So then I really thought about this, and then I came up with this whole stakeholder design thing. So I would put the stakeholders on the left. Actually, now this lists 4 stakeholders, which I see, which are the honest students, the students using the proxies, the instructors, the management. Technically, I think there's now a hidden 5th stakeholder, which is the government. But I think governments are sort of like a stakeholder for everything, so you don't really have to add them. Anyways, so I would just list what that student would want and what they want and what they don't want, and then I would sort of write down what the implication would be, and then I would sort of decide what action to take based on this uh, chart, so to speak. So I won't really go into the detail of this, but I'll leave it up in the discussions. But basically, it was there's this concept in economics called Pareto optimality, which we sort of don't impose a cost. So you can't make anybody better off without making the other one worse off. So that's just sort of the goal here, is that we make every like stakeholder as best off as we can. And this sort of thinking really helped me change the product and take it in a more productive uh, direction. So my pride and joy is sort of how the students like choosing it, because at the end of the day, my whole goal is to help the students. Again, I think it was Roger who mentioned about the risks of the students sort of being trapped into this uh, business of SMLs, and then secondly, the risks with LLMs is that they won't really practice writing, and writing I feel is a very essential skill, and I think the art of writing is already dead. And I don't know how the situation will play out long term when LLMs are sort of default. Anyway, so yeah, so I feel that when I started to think about everybody within the stakeholders system, I felt that I could improve these students who were the not cheating students, and since they were very positive about their experience of the tool, it if in effect encourage the instructors to get on board, and that in effect sort of encourages the department to get on board, and then so on and so forth. So the product, so sort of the pivot which we've made is that now we're focused on quizzing. So Auth helps educators verify student authorship through quick and easy authorship quizzes. So the whole insight is that writing is like having a conversation with yourself. If you outsource the writing, you miss out on that conversation. Again, within all of this scheme, everybody is so focused on LLMs that we've sort of forgotten about the writing process. So that's the sort of the goal, is to get the student engaged with the writing process, and that's sort of it. So we're so in terms of the metrics and collecting more data, we sort of focused. So my goal is to sort of change the paradigm, but we sort of right now it focused too much on similarity analysis. I am focused on familiarity, so which adds a bit more extra layer on top of similarity. So the future which we want to build is that I see detection as the easiest part, because detection really isn't that hard to do in terms. So it's hard to sell, but it's not hard to do. Uh, the more positive aspect would be like why I'm doing this is to sort of help the students which are genuinely like struggling during their whole experience, because let's be honest, degrees cost a lot. They cost a lot of time. Not everybody can afford to go through college, and I think the students who in fact end up going to college or uni, they should get the help that they need. So my longer term goal is to not so I'm sort of using detecting as a way of sort of classifying which students need more help, and then we sort of want to diagnose what help they need, and then sort of give them the help which they need as they're progressing through this journey. So I do have some discussion points. I hope I am on time. Yes, I am on time. So we can discuss, or I think I just leave this up to Veronica now.
Thank you very much, Ashi. It was great to hear your point of view and what motivated you to do this. It's incredible. I'm really glad that you are also focusing on students and not only to detecting, but also to this learning point of view. That sounds interesting. Thank you so much for your presentation. Are there
Thank you.
any questions? Okay, maybe not now, but definitely you might
Oh yeah, can I
get
just
one
drop in
from.
my yeah? So I actually forgot to add my email. I'll just quickly drop in my email just so people can contact me if they want.
Yes, please. So the email is now in the chat, but I will definitely make sure to post it to the video recording also, so the viewers can see it even from
Thank you.
the recording.